If you keep getting distracted and you're finding that things aren't set up right and it's killing your momentum, this is what the organization will do for you. And you can gain that momentum and the mental headspace of clarity and peace of mind that you're really looking for, that we're all really wanting. We're trying to think of our digital space like a physical one, like a physical workshop, and realizing that the reason why these files exist is because we're doing a process, we're creating something in the first place. If their team likes to do a lot of ad hoc meetings and not schedule them, I would really start pushing to say, hey, we tend to have these a lot. Why don't we pick a date and time?
You don't mean I don't go in and create 50 folders and 43 of them remain empty and then I have empty folders? What are you talking about? This is what I do. I create, it feels so good to create, it feels Project 1A finance reports. I put one document in and then I never use it again. Hi, folks. A quick one before we dive into this week's episode. Our book, The Critical Path Career, How to Advance in Construction Planning and Scheduling, is out now, and you can order it on Amazon. We'll include a link below. This is a great way to show support for the Beyond Deadlines podcast, and Greg and I have worked extremely hard taking everything we know in our 30 years of experience, plus everything we've picked up from shooting this podcast, and we've tried to pack it into an information-dense book that you can use right away. In the book, we have specific strategies on how to get a raise, how to get a promotion, and find a new job. We include 26 of the best interview questions that we have come across, in addition to 34 specific impact ideas that you can go use on your projects today. We want to thank everyone who's shown us support so far and enjoy this week's episode. Welcome to the Beyond Deadlines podcast, where we tackle challenges that planning and schedule leaders come across on a day-to-day basis. My name is Micah Piippo. I'm a planning and scheduling manager for Intel.
I'm Sean Lemon, and I'm the founder of The Digital Organizer and transform digital chaos to order.
Today, Sean's on the hot seat, and we are talking about digital organization. So Sean, you have a coworker that constantly complains about emails and files and is just a little bit all over the place in a hot mess. That coworker has noticed that you run a little bit of a different ship. How do you help them out?
Well, the first thing that I would do is give them some breathing room. And my first question is, how long can your emails sit before you have to answer them? Like, can they sit a few hours? Or is it your job so critical that you have to answer something immediately and you really have to have Outlook or Gmail or whatever you use open all day?
That's a great question to kick things off. I will say that the person constantly checks their email, but they do not have a critical email job. So they can respond to emails in 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours for only a handful of email. Like they get a couple email every once in a while that's like in 12, 24 hours in answer. The bulk is you got some time.
Great. So the first thing that I want to do is put some recurring times on your calendar to check your email. So we're going to decide at the front end, when are you going to check your email? And so maybe the starting place is 10 a.m. because I don't want you starting off your day checking email. I want you starting off your day figuring out what your priorities are before you let the world in. And then maybe you check your email after lunch. Say you go from 12 to 1. So let's check it at 1. And then let's check it at 4. Gives you about an hour before you wrap up at the end of the day. So if you can check your emails or respond to your emails between 12 and 24 hours, you can get away with checking your email once a day. But I know that you are addicted to the dopamine hit of responding to stuff all day. So we're going to start slow.
Yeah. So let's just, I love that we jumped right into the tactics and strategies. Let's take a little step back. And I mean, would you give the person like a little pep talk or kind of explain to them, how you've reached this like masterful Zen or anything like that?
Yeah. Okay. So first off, Micah, I know you're struggling so hard with this.
I am struggling. I am.
I'm sorry. I know this is really tough, but it doesn't have to stay this way. Because number one, we just need to realize you're kind of addicted to checking your emails all day, and it feels good to be responsive and to feel like you're accomplishing something. But what we need to do is take a break. And we actually need to set aside some time to get on top of your email. So I'm going to take you through a process where we figure out your schedule of when you're going to check email, because you don't have a critical job that it needs to be open all day. So we're going to set some recurring times so that you can go do other things. And then after that, we're going to clear the decks. So we've got to archive everything past a certain point. And then we're going to make it so that you have a lot less email to check. And then we're going to go in and basically do some automation, which starts with us, so figuring out when do you need to respond to different types of emails so that you can really get on top of it and not feel like you need to respond to every email right when they come up, but we can schedule them for different times in the week. So by giving yourself some space so that you can triage your email and have way less email to check in the first place because we've cleared the decks and stopped getting so much stuff, you're really going to get on top of this. Are you ready?
Yeah. Man, I'm like, my actual inbox, I read inbox 0, so it's cleared out, but I'm like, I got to get back in there and do it again today, you know? So let's walk through this just a little bit.
Yeah.
You set up the recurring meetings. And in one of those meetings, you're like, this is the clear the deck meeting. And this is one of the hardest steps I find people struggle to get over, is to just bring that volume down. You know, it's very rarely that I meet someone who has one of those issues where they have like 48 folders and they're actually shoving all their emails into folders and can't find them, but they have a clear deck. It's usually empty folders, huge stream of email, but there's that kind of hoarder mentality. How do you get someone past that? Like, my inbox, I just stream emails, and like, what's the shove you give them?
So when your email inbox is completely overloaded, how are you finding your emails?
Oh, I just go up to the search bar and type in the search and hope that magic happens.
Exactly.
Or I scroll. Oh, here's another one. I sort by people's names. And then if hopefully that person, it wasn't CC'd and it doesn't get categorized into something else.
So the majority of the time we have to search. Well, it turns out the search function is actually pretty good. And so we can use that. And the thing is, if you can find what you're looking for now, you can find it if we archive it and get it out of the inbox. So it doesn't have to stay in the inbox. It doesn't even have to go in a folder called done or processed, though you could do that. That was a good stepping stone for me when I, was scared to archive things when I first started doing this 15 years ago. I realized, why am I doing this? I can just archive the email and be done with it. Now, that's pretty new to Outlook, and most of you are probably in Outlook. But for the Gmail users out there, there's, the archive.
Whoop, whoop.
Woohoo. So, what we need to do is just say there is a certain point that we're not actually going to go back and process this stuff. So we have to pick a cutoff date. And so what is that cutoff date that you're comfortable with? Typically, that's 30 days. And we say, all right, let's go look for everything that's older than 30 days. We're going to select all those messages and archive them because they're all still there. You can still find them, and you can still even scroll to find them. You can click that archive button in Outlook, or you can click the all mail button in Gmail, and you can go and scroll right through it and find any emails beyond that certain point. But we need to give ourselves an achievable goal that we can actually go through and say, all right, I'm going to take this last 30 days. I'm going to delete the stuff that I don't need. And I'm going to unsubscribe, brutally unsubscribe from stuff. Even if you feel like you have value, if you don't read every single one of those emails, or at least, 2 out of 3 of the emails that you receive from subscriptions, you need to toss that subscription. You can always add it again later if you really miss it. Let's stop this nonsense. And then from there, delete the junk, archive the stuff that's already done. And now you're left with a bunch of good stuff in your inbox, and we can process that. Like, we can totally get on top of that and create a system for you. So yes, realize you can search, realize you can still sort alphabetically. You can do all of these other strategies. We got to get it out of the inbox though. And there's brain science behind that too.
You got them on the archive. All right. And so let's say the person dove in, archived the emails, they set up the kind of weekly email checks, and they have a more manageable inbox. How do they keep that going? I'm guessing there's some sort of folders, maybe some auto processing. How do they kind of take that and not regress back to where they've been?
Yeah. So first off, by ruthlessly unsubscribing, and I think if you're going to do anything, that's the most important thing, is take an hour. And if you're not done with an hour, set a couple more appointments with yourself throughout the week to set another 30 minutes or whatever's tolerable for you to go in and seriously get rid of those subscriptions. And that's a huge part so that the good stuff doesn't get lost. Now, the second part to actually staying up and on top of this is figuring out a triage system of what are the emails that you should deal with now, and what are the other types of emails that you get that don't need to be responded to immediately, but they're pretty routine that you get these types of messages. And by figuring out what those types of messages are and what your triage routine is, you can really stay on top of that. And I can go into more of like some examples of that if you want.
Yeah, well, let's maybe I'll throw a couple out there that are
Sure.
industry specific related, and then you break them down and tell me, if I'm headed in the right direction. So let's say I support a project manager on a project, and his emails for direct requests to me are always pretty important. He's looking for information, schedule information, plan information. Typically, when he emails me, I want it flagged. So in, either Outlook or Gmail, to me, that would be one where I might flag in red or flag as a priority. So when they come in, automatically I can see them and be like, oh, okay, well, this is like the ice cream social for Friday, but this is like something I actually need to get done. Mm-hmm. Would that be one that's, correctly assigned or how I'm thinking about it correctly?
Yeah. So we've got what we're looking at is highlighting a specific person that's important to us. So depending on, once you've gone through the process of really slowing down the email, do you have that many emails that you need to flag someone in the first place? Do we need to set up a rule? If so, and we really do want to highlight that person, let's go ahead and create a rule in Outlook or Gmail and say, flag this person red or mark it as important, whichever kind of works for you to have that show up. And then what we're going to do is say, once we see that email, we'll call him Sam. Once Sam, sends that email to us and we see that it's the ice cream social and it's for Friday, it's like, okay, great. I'm going to put that on my calendar, and you can do it right then and archive it. Or if you don't want to open up your calendar, you snooze it to the end of the day, because that's a really easy request. It takes no brain power. Let's throw it at the end of the day so that you can knock that out quickly and go get to some other more important things than adding the ice cream social and all the details, or texting your spouse to see, hey, would you mind if I'm a little bit late on Friday? Have you got anything planned? I'm going to go do this thing. So that may take a little bit more time, but we don't want to deal with it now. We snooze it. Or we deal with all of our calendar on Wednesday mornings, and we rearrange the calendar, and I know that that's further on down the road. So I actually want to snooze that for Wednesday morning instead so that I can deal with it then. So that's kind of the idea of triaging. Doesn't need to get done now. Doesn't need to get done after lunch at the end of the day or on a specific day that I typically do these types of tasks.
I want to get into that, the calendar and specific types of days for tasks. But to kind of wrap up the email piece, I remember, I think it was the GTD system, Getting Things Done by David Allen, where he had some sort of time range. It was like, if the task can take, I don't know, 1 or 2 minutes, less than 5 minutes, do it. We're in triage zone of, hey, I'm going to check my email. It's 11 a.m. to noon, and I'm in that zone. Do you recommend people hold that as kind of their rule of thumb, so they don't go squirrel mode and shoot off on the request, and now you're working on something and you didn't triage the email, and oh, here it comes, it's piling up.
Yes, that's definitely the rule of thumb. However, the more you do this, the more you'll start to understand yourself and realize, ooh, this may only take me 5 minutes, but that means that I'm going to open up Facebook, and I don't know how long I'm going to get lost in that to take action on this. And so maybe you just know yourself and decide even though it's going to take less than 5 minutes, you just don't want to open that door in the first place. Or I don't want to open up that file because that's going to make me think about all the other things that I need to do for that project and it's not time for it. In which case, go ahead and snooze it. But as a rule of thumb, yeah, do it if it takes a few minutes or less.
Yeah, I do not open up Primavera P6, which is our primary scheduling software, and I do not open up Microsoft Excel or spreadsheets as a rule of thumb. Those are my, I'm going to get lost for hours in. And it's like, if the ask requires me to do that, we're going to push that off down the road. Okay. So I think we've tackled email. I think we got some really good strategies. I'm feeling better about my email. It's a little bit more organized. I got this calendar, and man, this calendar is I have meetings all day and it's slammed. How do I now take control of my time?
Yeah. So realize that the emails can wait. And but actually schedule them, because having a visual on your calendar that says email/Asana/break means that once you do email, then maybe you're going to go check and see what's going on in Asana, if there's any updates from there. Or maybe this is a time that, hey, it's kind of light, I should go take a breather. And so start naming the chunks of time to fill multiple functions, because sometimes there's not going to be very much email. And so what else could you fill that time with? And assign that to it so that you can also let go of the other things that can be, attention grabbing, or compulsively check. Like if you can compulsively check something, put all the compulsive stuff in a box together. And then also give yourself an opportunity to take a break as well. So that's always can be nice if we've got a heavily loaded up week. So another part of this to the scheduling would be deciding if there are specific days that you can dedicate towards backstage work versus front stage work. And what I mean by that is, so my job is working with or doing sales calls, doing marketing and stuff, podcasts like these. And so doing this is front stage work. And so I want to schedule this on specific days. That's going to be Fridays, late morning, early afternoon, Tuesdays and Thursdays, because Monday is my admin day, and Wednesday, admin and marketing work, whatever I just need time for, and I don't want to have meetings. And Wednesday is the same. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have meetings on those days, but as a general rule of thumb, I have kind of categorized and dedicated large chunks of time. And I have the luxury of being able to dedicate a whole day to that. But you may only be able to do the front half of the day or the back half. So it's starting to think about your time of when do I need work? When do I need space for me to be able to function well at what I'm getting paid for, which is to show up on calls, deliver this, think clearly and actually do the project management. That's still your front stage work, is the project management. But figuring out some other parts of that could be back.
Yeah. And I would say I try to reframe this a little bit and give specific examples for our planners and schedulers who oftentimes in their roles, you may feel, and I felt this way in my career at certain points of times, you're like, well, I don't have the autonomy. They already have this team status meeting on Tuesday at 10, and that's when I want to go do this, or on Friday that. But I've often found then there are large chunks that you can work to adjust. And then you can always ask for requests to shift meetings over time, but to kind of step back and look at that calendar and say, listen, we have progress, field progress on Monday and Tuesday. That's where I'm putting in all this data. And then Wednesday, I'm putting out these reports, to then not maybe throw in activities that are going to disrupt that or be counter to that. And so then maybe you move all your one-on-ones and your boss meetings and your career conversations to later in the week and not try and stack those in.
Yeah.
And so that's where I see a lot of times, or if you know that a progress meeting always leaves you with a ton of action items and stuff to do afterwards, block 30 minutes after that meeting, and then you have that focus time to close it out. Because whenever I don't do that and I'm like, oh, I'll do it later, and then it rolls to the next day, rolls to the next day. And now I'm just constantly in this like weekly cycle of it. And owning that calendar in your time is such a powerful tool for people that I just don't see it being done enough on the construction site with people, because I feel like a lot of people feel like they don't control their own calendar based on the kind of standard meetings, that are happening. Any advice to people who do have those, they don't have full autonomy over their calendar, they have blocks of stuff that they have to do? How do they carve out time and stay organized with their overall calendar?
Yeah, I would encourage them, if their team likes to do a lot of ad hoc meetings and not schedule them, I would really start pushing to say, hey, we tend to have these a lot. Why don't we pick a date and time? And by you being the initiator, you may have first pick of suggesting when times might be good. But it's trying to figure out what the routine is. If you can flex and move things around to your advantage, try. Why not? But then realize that there are huge chunks of time, and you get to block those things off. And you also get to set appointments with yourself and important things with yourself that you can say, I'm booked at that time. I have a meeting already, and that meeting is with yourself. So
I love doing that. I love that. I mean, it's,
totally.
it's one of those ones where at first I felt guilty about doing it, but then I realized that this meeting can happen very rarely will someone, even in a large corporate setting, be like, we have to meet now. And those times happen. And then, maybe my email gets interrupted, but most of the time it's just people with generic run of the mill type stuff. And they see your calendar and they see that slot open at 10 a.m. and they throw it on there. And it could be 10 a.m. on Wednesday. It could be, 4 p.m. on Thursday, but they saw it and they take it. And so owning your own time is such a powerful thing. And booking those things that are tasks that you need to get done, your work tasks. Yeah, I would completely second that. So I got the email organized. We're feeling great. We got that calendar. Do you have, I guess, like a weekly routine that you recommend, like a Friday at the end of the week for people to kind of go through and organize the email and the calendar that you prescribe to or recommend?
So I typically like to do my calendar on Mondays and on Monday mornings, because Friday is good to kind of look back and process. But for me personally, and for a lot of people we work with, looking at the calendar on Monday or on Sunday, if you are open to that, that will help kind of get you ready for the week and looking at it. And also, priorities may have changed over the weekends, and you got some emails in your inbox that actually have changed things around. Someone who's deleted a meeting or added something to your calendar over the weekend. And so I like to look at that fresh, because things may have changed, in 48 hours. So, Fridays, I like to look back and count up the wins and also determine what the next trajectory is. And so these are like actually setting the goals and the objectives of, okay, great, I've got a good win, I've got a good feel of what's happened this week and where we need to go. And so I like to do all of that. And that's typically Friday mornings to process that, because by the end of Friday, I really want to be, done nearing the end. And so I want to just be able to knock stuff out at the end, at the end of that. So the morning on Friday, the morning on Monday, Friday looking back, and then strategizing. Monday, let me rearrange, get up to speed, and then do fine tuning of my plans.
Absolutely brilliant. Sean, this can probably be an entire another episode, but then I want to just touch on personal file management
Yeah.
because we've hit the email, we have hit the count. I don't know why I'm putting the word "the" in front of it. I feel like anyways, I'm not going to struggle to do it now. We've done email, we've done calendar. I would say the next spot, there's probably two of them. I'll give you an option. It's either files or bookmarks. Now, some people don't use web browser bookmarks, but I definitely do use them. And some people use so let's tackle files.
Okay.
What are your strategies for personal file management? Let's say the person uses, I don't know, Windows person uses OneDrive.
Okay.
What are you recommending to help get them cleaned out and get them ready to go?
So the first thing is to take inventory of what you've got. Or do you have stuff that's not in OneDrive? Have you got stuff in Dropbox? Are there critical things that you've got in other places that need to be consolidated? In which case, go get them. Go download them, get them all into your OneDrive, and delete them from the source location. So if they're in Dropbox, you don't have Dropbox installed, so you downloaded the files, and then you moved them into OneDrive. Let's delete them out of Dropbox on the web so that we're not confused later on down the road on which version we have got to clean up after ourselves. After that, I want to figure out, and well, actually, probably should have started out, do we have a significant other that we want to be able to share files with?
Well, let's keep this corporate setting.
Okay,
so
cool. So then
maybe you do have a significant other at work, but most likely it's probably just a team of people.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's consolidate everything. Now, if you've been saving critical files in folders in email, so you've got a few folders and you go to those folders to access those files, let's go get those attachments and download them and put them into OneDrive so that we don't have to keep going back to email to reference files. We want to go to files for files. Email is for communication. By the way, if somebody emails you an attachment, we download the attachment, we put it into our file system, and we archive the email. We're not going back to that to reference contracts or anything else. So now it's time to organize. So everything is consolidated into OneDrive. I suggest going through a specific process. And actually, as a bonus, I'm going to give you a download to this whole process. So I'm going to kind of skim over it, and then you can go to thedigitalorganizer.com/beyond-deadlines, and you can download this guide. So that way we can just skip through this and I don't have to bore you to tears. So first off, don't be tempted in creating a folder structure right now. You've just consolidated everything and put it into OneDrive. You just dumped it all in one place.
Wait, Sean, you don't mean I don't go in and create 50 folders and then 43 of them remain empty and then I have empty folders? What are you talking about? This is what I do. No. I create it feels so good to create,
It feels great.
Project 1A finance reports. I put one document in then I never use it again. Okay, sorry.
Stop it. We just consolidated. It's time to purge. You have been hoarding, and it's time to delete stuff that you don't need. So first step, just go start finding things to delete. It's really fun to delete stuff. Take joy in that process and just go delete the stuff that you know you don't need to delete. If you need to archive it or you might want to keep it, skip it. Just go find stuff that you need to delete. Once you're done with that, now it's time to start archiving. Now create a folder. You get to create a folder now. You can call this archive. You can call this the attic. You can call it the basement. Whatever you want. This is where you're putting files that it's unlikely you're going to look at with any frequency at all. And we're going to skip organizing those for now because they're not a priority. And what you're going to find is the 80-20 rule applies to this. The majority of the stuff that you have, you're not accessing daily. Let's get all that stuff out of there. So open that in a new window so that you've got one window has all of your files, another window's got your archive, and you're just going to start archiving stuff. Once you're done with that, then you get to start creating some folders. So because what have you done? You've just gone into everything. Like you've been finding and looking all around. So now you've kind of primed yourself to really look critically at what are the files that are left that are actually current and relevant right now. And that is going to dictate your new folder structure. So let's cannibalize the old one and let's create a new folder structure and let's start moving things into a new folder structure. And I would encourage you to make that more broad than deep.
Yeah, I think as I've gone through the years, I want to just, I think of it as like I'm walking out to a workshop to like build the bike,
Yeah.
and maybe I have a bike here, and maybe I have a workbench here, two things I'm working on. But when I walk out to the bike, I want everything there that I can work on for the bike.
Yeah.
So if I'm creating that progress update for the project manager, I want to be able to find the spreadsheet that the project manager sent me. I want to have the cash flow report, and I want to be able to access the schedule quickly. And I just want the tables set. And that's where how you're kind of describing it to me is that's what comes to mind. You're getting a space. So when you go do those tasks in the future, you're not wasting time going into Outlook, searching by attachment, sorting by people's names, finding that fourth email down. Like that is such a motivational killer to me. It's like sometimes I do that. I'm like, man, I need to go grab a cup of coffee. And like I haven't even done any work. I've just gotten the work ready to do the work.
Yep.
So that to me is kind of seems the what you're trying to get to, getting people to the work faster.
Exactly. We're trying to think of our digital space like a physical one, like a physical workshop, and realizing that the reason why these files exist is because we're doing a process, we're creating something in the first place, and so there's context to that. If you're going to create a report on a bunch of other things, well, let's make it so that all of the things that you need to create the report are at hand. Maybe that's a set of bookmarks, or maybe that's you've been saving these files into this particular folder, so when you create the report, everything is right there at hand. And so we actually, one of the things that I go into in this guide that I'm going to give you is archiving in context, and then more of a deep archive of things we really don't need. But when we create that report and we had all of these assets pulled together to create it, once it's done, that can be archived. And so you can have a folder called completed, and you just take all that stuff and you dump it into the completed folder, and then it's out of view. So when you go to create your reports, you're only seeing the assets that you need, and then any reports that are being drafted, and then they're sent complete, they get moved on somewhere else. So it's a very focused filing system built around how you actually work. We're not trying to create a library of resources, and you can do that. And that's a little bit different strategy.
Yeah, I like this too because it seems like there is a little bit of a entry, like a little bit of cost you pay up front, but then the rest is just kind of like sorting and filing. It's just, as you go, it's like the laundry, you can take all your laundry and you can throw it on the chair in your bedroom and it'll stack up to the ceiling and your wife will get super angry and mad at you, right? Not speaking from personal experience here. Or if you choose to, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, you fold a couple shirts, fold a couple pants, and you work through it. And that way it's not this exhausting system. You're kind of chipping away at this time by time, and it keeps the flow going. And so I really like that because it's not this massive time commitment. It doesn't seem like this crazy keto diet that you're like so constrained into that like I have to do everything. It's more just a nice flow process.
And how that actually plays out practically is once you've created this focused filing system and you get an email from someone that's got an attachment that needs to be saved in one of those folders, when you get it, you just hit save and then choose exactly where it's supposed to go. And if it's not named appropriately, then you name it right when you're downloading it. And then there's no organization. And so like if you're downloading stuff from a website a lot and it's just dumping it onto your desktop or in a downloads folder, you need to change a preference in your web browser to say, ask me where to download a file. So it prompts you and you get to pick and rename it immediately. So it's like clean up as you go. Like, okay, so we pull the mayonnaise out to put on our sandwich and then we immediately put it back away. Instead of just we leave everything out and then do it later. Like, no, it's you get something, you put it away immediately.
Yeah. Well, I just like I don't know if it's the coffee or this conversation, but I just want to like organize my digital space. This has been such a great conversation, Sean. I think we probably have to do a whole one on team file structures because we touched on it on the personal side, but I feel like there's a lot to cover. So we'll have to have you back on another one.
Cool.
Tell us a little bit about the digital organizer. I really appreciate providing the guide. We'll put it, in the show notes and link it, but give me a little bit of background on the digital organizer and how people can find you.
Yeah, so you can go to thedigitalorganizer.com to check out more about what we do, but we partner with our clients to help you get organized, and we work in 4 core areas: email, files, passwords, project management. The stuff that if you do those really well, you hardly need anything else, and you will blow everyone else away. So we've systemized everything that we do. So we've got a course. You'll be offered that course at a nice big discount for signing up for the resource, for that resource. But then the primary thing that people come to us for is actual help of how do I take these principles and apply it to my life so I can gain back 2 or 3 hours a day if you're drowning in email, or your team can be more productive in creating folder structures. So we work with people individually, and then we work with teams to help build out systems to work really efficiently. So we can do as much as you need to get you to the finish line. So that's our whole thing is we're here to help adapt it and get you to the finish line, especially if you don't like doing this type of work.
Yeah, and I just want to double down on what Sean said about 3-4 hours a week. It is amazing the time you will save being organized. I published something a while back that just said, like, just using hotkeys, you can save like 8 hours, 8 working days, just using hotkeys and time over a year. I got to imagine with doing a proper organization, you're probably going to save weeks of your time per year. But then the other piece of it that I think is even more important than just the time, the energy that you will have going into your work. You will just, I am always, when I see that table set and I go into it, I am just so excited to get to work and I can get into that flow state and just start crushing it. So I just wanted to double click on that. Sean, before we drop, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would say instead of counting up the minutes that you're saving, let's think about momentum.
Yeah.
And if you keep getting distracted and you're finding that things aren't set up right and it's killing your momentum, this is what the organization will do for you. And spending that time on the front end, it doesn't have to take that much time. We build it up in our minds that it's this big tedious thing, and it's not nearly as hard. And it doesn't take nearly as long, but it's just knowing that you're doing it in an efficient way, and that's totally available, and you don't have to YouTube it to try and get this done, and you can gain that momentum and the mental headspace, clarity, and peace of mind that you're really looking for, that we're all really wanting, is that, and you get that through organization and understanding what's going on, and this is totally achievable.
Perfect. Sean, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. For everyone else, hope you have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.